Radio, it is now time to head into the chat room, and joining us today is Nine's Alan Rascal, and coming back for more, Honey's Shelley Horton. Good afternoon to both of you.
Hello.
Hey, ladies.
Okay, first up, there are calls today for the term disabled to be replaced with access inclusion seekers. Get your mouth around that one. Sydney's Lord Mayor is considering a new plan by the council's inclusion expert advisory panel, which claims the D word could soon become as offensive as the N word. Shelley, I mean, it's a tricky one because who are we to say if the word disabled is offensive or not? But what are your thoughts on this one?
I just think this sounds ridiculous. I mean, I actually like PC. I like being politically correct. I think instead of even calling it politically correct, I like emotionally correct. So if we're going to change this term to make people feel more comfortable, I'm all for it. I don't understand, though, the access inclusion seekers. I think that's such a cumbersome and terrible term.
Clunky.
I quite like the idea, though, of disabled toilets being renamed accessible toilets.
Yes.
That makes sense to me.
But then but then does that mean that anyone can access them? Because if you're a mother with 3 children, you need more space and it's accessible? I
actually wouldn't argue with that. I think that that's completely fine as well. There's not, you know, a huge line of people waiting to get into that. So I think if you do need the access, then you should be entitled to use it.
I think it's hard, isn't it? Because you'd think if this was a panel that had come up with this idea, you'd think that they would have spoken to people who are disabled, and maybe there is a feeling out there.
Maybe there is, and you know what? I would love to, you know, learn more about that, but I kind of think sometimes when the council gets involved, it's death by committee, and it just, you know, they thrash things out, and this is what they come up with. I don't know if it really is a true representation of what people that are less abled would like to be called.
Yeah, well, Alan, what do you think? A fair call or political correctness gone mad?
Oh, look, I think so many people can take offence to so many words. It depends on who you are and where you're coming from. And that, what is the replacement term? Access inclusion seekers. What does that mean? How is that even going to fit on a toilet door? And on top of that, I find it offensive because it automatically assumes that those with a disability are not included. Many of the disabled folks I come across have extraordinary abilities. And as I said, where do you draw the line? Are we not allowed to say the word dead because it will be insensitive to a corpse?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, maybe it'd be great to hear from people like Dylan Alcott or Kurt Fernley about this.
Yes.
But, you know, as you mentioned there, Alan, you know, there are plenty of people who are probably proud to identify as a person with a disability.
Absolutely. Hence, you know, the Disabled Olympics.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. I'm sure we'll maybe be talking about it again. Okay, let's go from offending the disabled to offending the religious. And a popular burger bar has been criticised for this social media post about its opening hours over Easter. This image of Jesus holding a beer and a cigarette was captioned, "Jesus got hammered for his sins. You can too." Facebook users slammed it as disrespectful. Alan, do you agree with them? Inappropriate or good marketing?
Look, I've got to declare I was raised a Christian and I am a Christian, and I think we also agree that I've got a pretty healthy sense of humour, but I do think this one has gone a little bit too far. Jesus being hammered for his sins, I mean, clearly that is a reference to him being hammered to the cross at his time of crucifixion, which is the very heart of Easter, one of the most religious and holiest times on the Christian calendar. It seems that folks think that they can get away with taking cheap pot shots at Christianity all the time. Could you imagine the outcry if they said similar things to, about the Muslim faith, the Jewish faith, the Hindu faith? While as I said, I've got a pretty good sense of humour. I can see how this might be considered clever, but I do think it's gone a little bit too far.
Okay, Shelley, it certainly has backfired on them. The restaurant's rating reportedly slipping from 4.9 stars to 2.9.
Oh.
Are you a Christian? Were you offended by it?
Not a Christian, never been a Christian. To me, Easter is about chocolate Easter eggs. But even when I heard this, I had that kind of, oh, that's a bit offensive. So the thing is, though, if you have ever been to that bar, which I have, their clientele are not going to be offended by it. So I think it's one of those things that maybe if it was an in-house advertisement rather than to the public, it would have been okay because they know who their clientele are. But I think, they stepped over the line.
Yeah, I think these days we see it happen quite regularly, don't we, where they try and be smart and funny with their advertising.
We're talking about it, so, it could be that they're going to be completely packed all weekend. Who knows?
That's it, isn't it, Alan? It's perhaps done what they wanted it to do, which is get that marketing.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day when it comes to people trying to get people through the door.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to take a quick break and come back to you both in just a moment, but don't go anywhere. After the break... Okay, let's head straight back into the chat room with Shelley Horton and Alan Rascal. And Afterpay has become a popular way for people wanting to purchase something and have the option to pay it off in instalments. At the end of last year, Aussies owed $903 million in outstanding balances. You can use it to buy clothes, even cover your dental costs. And now you can book a holiday and pay for it later. Alan, is this a good thing, or are we feeding that mindset, particularly in millennials, of buy it now and worry about how you're going to pay for it later?
Oh, look, I can certainly see the attraction for this particular service, although I do know you pretty much will have to pay it all up front before you go on your holiday, or it can be cancelled. But I've got to say this, if you can't afford to go on a holiday, how in the hell are you going to afford to have fun while you're on your holiday? Hey, what about your spending money? How are you going to tip the show?
That's what credit cards are for.
Yeah, how are you going to tip the chauffeur on the way to the airport? How are you going to buy your cocktails, although I do preload at the stand-up on-board bar? How are you going to tip your porter with all that shopping you do? You're just setting yourself up for a holiday of disappointment.
Oh, just don't tip. Although if you're in America, I guess you have to. Shelley, are you concerned about this at all?
Yeah, I am. I think, you know, I'm 45 and I just don't use Afterpay. I have this crazy concept where I save and then I reward myself with a holiday with the money I've saved. Crazy. But I've actually got friends who run businesses and they have been told if they don't have Afterpay as an option for their online business that they will be losing customers. So I think it might be a sign of the times, and maybe it's just like a different version to credit cards. It's certainly better than the 20% we're paying on credit cards. Yeah. Maybe you use Afterpay.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Our version was kind of, you know, credit cards, and this is the modern version.
Or lay-by.
Yeah, but true, and before that, lay-by.
Yeah.
But can't you just hear your parents in your ear? You know,
oh,
don't buy
my
anything
goodness.
you can't afford.
Yeah, if you can't afford to buy, if you can't afford to buy a house, you don't buy a house. Can't afford to buy a car, you don't buy a car. I just don't understand these concepts.
I also think that there's something pretty spectacular with that delayed gratification when you actually really want something and so you go without other things and then you get to have your reward. And I think it's so much sweeter. I don't
work harder for it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you appreciate it more when you know the sacrifices you've had to make for it to happen.
That's true, but this is the problem with teenagers and millennials these days. It's just like, I have to have it now.
Bloody kids.
Oh, that's why I've got my daughter working now to pay for
Yeah.
it. I mean, she's just doing, you know, jobs around the house and washing people's cars.
It all helps, as she should.
But it all helps. Okay, let's get on to the last topic. And one way we could possibly pay for our holidays is by doing a closet clean out. Research showing British women each have 13 pieces of unwanted clothing in their wardrobe, worth a total of more than $900. Shelley, 13 pieces?
That's
I think
a lot.
I've got, I don't know, 100 in mine.
Yeah.
Are you a clothes hoarder, Shelley?
I'm actually not. I'm very lucky because I get to borrow a lot of clothes like these and then return them. But I also really like to keep, you know, things moving in my wardrobe. So I donate to Dress for Success, which is a company
Fabulous
that
thing.
then helps women getting back into the workforce. But I just, and I'm not sure if I want to go through the rigmarole of having to, you know, get it out, put it online, sell it, follow up. But then on the flip side, I've got some girlfriends who all got together and about 5 of them had an amazing stall at the market with clothes that they wanted to get rid of, and they made some decent cash and they could have a holiday.
Yeah. Well, Alan, is your wardrobe bursting with clothes you haven't worn for years?
Well, yes, and can I just say 13 pieces at $900? Mrs. Rascal would give them a run for their money. How soft. I mean, she doesn't even carry her Birkin bag because it's too heavy, let alone her collection of Chanel handbags. And don't even get me started on the amount of clothes we got. Our spare room is a walk-in robe of discarded designer labels. We do donate to charity as well. Let me just say there's a lot of well-dressed thrift store people around Richmond.
Do you know, when I was younger, my dad used to call my wardrobe the walk-on wardrobe. Walk-in wardrobe.
I love it.
Yeah.
That is such a
But
dad
I did that.
joke.
I went to the markets with my girlfriend. It was a great fun, so I highly recommend that.
Cool.
Okay, we will leave it there. Thanks to both of you. Great to have your opinions on those. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Happy Easter.
And thanks to you. Up next, the afternoon news.